Kila wakati wa Pokot wanafanya hivi, na ni watu wachache. Sisi Pokot 99% of our community, of our population, we are peace lovers.
Mwalifu akiadhibiwa atakuwa mfano kwa wengine na mwingine ataogopa. Kwa hivyo sisi kama Wapokot tumekubali kupeana mkora.
When you mention and say Pokots are bandits, you are a liar. You just understand that a bandit is one person. And I believe the government have the resources. They have intelligence. They have arms to the roots of the villages. Can we identify that one person and bring that person into books?
The leaders are also calling on the government to open up the region to the rest of the country by constructing schools and roads, among other amenities.
Disarmament iende pamoja na development. Hili tuweze kuangamiza huyu mkora anaitwa bandit mpaka maendeleo imfikie mtu aliye ndani. Afikie mtu mwenye ako Lokis, ifikie mtu mwenye ako Akoret.
Hiyo equalization funds ikifika Tiati, kusema ukweli, hata mambo ya insecurity itaisha. Itatusaidia sana.
Tiati Member of Parliament William Kamket has in the meantime called for collective responsibility among area leaders in restoring peace in the disturbed parts of the county.
Zoea kutupigia kelele, wanatuambia ati sisi viongozi wa Pokot atuongeleshi hii watu yetu mambo ya amani. Kwani hii naongea ni nini? Na wale wanaongea ni wale wamechaguliwa Baringo hii.
Nancy Okware, Lunchtime News.
In other news, several villages in Kajiado Central Sub-County, Kajiado County, continue to bear the brunt of raging flash floods that have left residents stranded. According to the locals, floods occasioned by the recent heavy rains have washed away bridges, making several roads impassable.
These were the scenes in several villages in Kajiado Central Sub-County, Kajiado County. Heavy rains witnessed in the area recently have resulted in flash floods. Residents of Torosei and Logosua villages have been unable to access nearby Ilbisil town to buy foodstuffs and other necessities.
Wale wakukuja kupandile hata kesho tunapeleka watoto wapi subzonal hakuna barabara.
Their only access roads have been damaged by floods and bridges washed away. Dejected residents say their livelihood is at risk, blaming the relevant authorities for poor roadwork networks in the area.
National government tunaona imekatika. Kwa vera leo kuna mchezo pale Lorongoswa, tunaona watoto waendi juu ya hiyo mchezo, hiyo katika imekatika.
They want the county government to improve the road infrastructure in the area, saying they have been neglected.
The leaders from MP, governor, MCS, any other person, watutengenezee hii river hii hapa inaitwa mashini. Hakuna kwenda tena. That is the end of the story. Na sio hii tu peke yake, iko mingi hapa kwa barabara.
Last year, more than 10 people were killed by floods and property was destroyed in the entire county.
In efforts to fight Kala-Azar, one of the neglected tropical diseases, West Pokot County has dedicated 2 health facilities to treat thousands of patients afflicted by the disease. West Pokot County Health Department has set aside 2 standalone treatment centers in Kacheliba and Segor sub-counties.
Kacheliba Sub-County Hospital. Patients are queuing for testing of Kala-Azar at the hospital's reception. In the laboratory, technicians are busy testing and analyzing blood samples for the disease. In a day, an average of 30 patients are received and screened for the disease. In the last 2 years, the hospital has received more than 1,200 patients.
Roughly, it depends on the number of clients that we might be having here, but roughly we are doing around 10 clients. We are testing around 10 clients, and out of that, 30% might come positive. Yes.
Kala-azar is caused by protozoan parasites, which are transmitted by the bite of infected female sandflies. There are 3 main forms of the disease, namely visceral, the most serious form because it is almost always fatal without treatment; cutaneous, the most common, usually causing skin ulcers; and mucocutaneous, affecting mouth, nose, and throat. At Sigor Sub-County Hospital, another facility dedicated to treating Kala-azar disease, Dr. David Kiptanui, the clinical officer at Sigor County Hospital, says the facility is receiving patients from as far as Baringo County.
But majority of these patients do come from central Pokot, that is Sigor, Masol, and the farthest they come is from Baringo.
West Pokot County CEC for Health, Clear Pa Clear, is appealing for donor support in the eradication of Kala-azar.
Ukiwa na shida ya Kala-azar, tafadhali wale wako Central Sigor ilifunguliwa na matibabu yanapeana na ni bure. Kuna hata shilingi utalipa.
And away from health matters, we cross over to Safari Park Hotel, where Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is presiding over the official closing of the 3rd Symposium on Greening Judiciaries in Africa and ratification of the Nairobi Communique. Let's listen in. Well, we do apologize for that. We shall be going back once we sort out that issue. For now, we cross over to the Mount Kenya region, a section of Mount Kenya young professionals under the banner The Voice of the Mountain now says the bipartisan talks between the government and the opposition should also involve other stakeholders.
Their chairman, Wycliffe Commander, the team urged the two leaders to articulate the issues of the high cost of living that has affected every Kenyan.
We are in a position where we are not going to be having anything to sell. We are just going to be people to buy. The reason is, most parts of Kiambu been homes of real estates and others. So in future, we shall not be having anything to sell. And as the people of Mount Kenya, we depend on 2 things, business and farming. And you cannot do business if you have nothing to sell and buy. That is what we call trade.
The group hailed President William Ruto and Azimio leader Raila Odinga for calling off demonstrations and settling for dialogue for the betterment of the nation.
Our people are business people. Our people are professionals. So we need to ensure that the 30% equity is brought back so that our country can live and also we face fair competition.
At the same time, the team called for the parties to look at 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling that would give every Kenyan an equal level concerning their populations.
Kwa hivyo tungeliomba kama kikundi hiki sisi mambo yetu yanayojadiliwa katika mahali pale ikaweza kuwekwa pale mezani nasi tukafaidika na hata vijana ajira na kazi kwa vijana ikawekwa pale.
They call for inclusivity in their talks. Lucy Uside for Lunchtime News.
And now let's cross over to Safari Park Hotel, where Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is presiding over the official closing ceremony of the 3rd Symposium of Greening Judiciaries. Let's listen.
To the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. Among other issues, the President highlighted the polluter pay principle. This is to compensate countries whose contribution to pollution is negligible, a majority being in Africa. While lagging implementation of the climate compensation model, we count on the judiciary to issue precedent-setting judgments. Such judgments will also inform new laws or reviews thereof for the benefit of the people. Further, Africa is leading in championing a sustainable development and ensuring a clean and healthy environment. As the coordinator of the Committee of African Heads of State and Government on Climate Change, President William Ruto will convene a continental summit focusing on climate action in 2024. Distinguished delegates, as recognized in the Johannesburg Principles on the Rule of Law and Sustainable Development, the judiciary should be informed on the rapidly expanding boundaries of environmental law. They must also be aware of their role and responsibilities in promoting the implementation, development and enforcement of laws, regulations and international agreements relating to sustainable development. Lady Chief Justice, distinguished delegates, the importance of your discussion at this symposium cannot be gainsaid. The regulatory, legislative, and adjudicative framework in matters of environment is key in the wider conservation and regeneration strategy. In Kenya, we are taking the necessary steps, including supporting amendments towards strengthening the Climate Change Act 2016. I urge the public and other interested parties to comment comprehensively on the proposed amendments through the ongoing public participation process. Distinguished delegates, emphasis must be placed on the outcome of this symposium and the next steps in strengthening our national and regional legal frameworks for environmental protection and conservation. Reflecting on the judiciary of Kenya's social transformation through access to justice, institutional vision, emphasis must be on people-centered justice and the tangible benefits for the peoples of our jurisdictions. We must not forget strategies, policies, and interventions with the most tangible benefits. Distinguished delegates, as I conclude, allow me to emphasize that judicial outcomes and principles emerging from your adjudication of environmental matters in informing strategic and policy atmosphere within which all other actors operate. Finally, I invite our visitors to sample the sceneries, experiences, and the diverse Kenyan hospitality before flying back home. Take time to visit the Masai Mara and sample our exotic wildlife species. If you get time, fly to the coastal town of Mombasa and enjoy our exotic beaches as you enjoy the hospitality of the Kenyan people. Distinguished delegates, it is now my honor to declare the 3rd Regional Symposium on Greening Judiciaries in Africa officially closed. I don't want to say anything outside my official script. I just want to pass warm regards from President William Ruto, who is out of the country on official duty. He has told me to pass his greetings. He told me that he was very happy to engage you on Monday. And he told me once more to remind the Kenyan judiciary of his commitment and that of his government to protect and promote the independence of the judiciary and allow you space and empower you to dispense justice without hindrance. And it is his position that an independent, strong judiciary is good for any country, and it is good for Kenya. Thank you very much. May God bless you. Asanteni sana. Thank you.
Well, that is Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua presiding over the official closing ceremony of the 3rd Symposium on Greening Judiciaries in Africa and ratification of the Nairobi Communique. Well, now we move on. The county government of Wambiru has partnered with a local non-profit organization based to revive the Wambiru National Park, which was for a long time being invaded by pastoralists searching for pasture for their animals. The organization has donated 2 brand new Land Cruiser vehicles that will enable the Kenya Wildlife Service officers to conduct a patrol inside and outside the park.
Visit to Wambiru National Park. For a long time, This park had been taken over by pastoralists looking for pastures for their animals due to the prolonged drought situation which is continued to be witnessed in the county. But now, the park is set to revive its glory again after a non-profit organization based in the county donated 2 vehicles to the Kenya Wildlife Service officers to enable them to conduct patrols to flush out pastoralists.
Hii gari mbili tutahakikisha tunaenda kutumia kwa njia nzuri. Itafanya kazi ya operations peke yake, hakuna kazi nyingine itafanya. Itakuwa ikifanya ndani kwa sababu tulikuwa na changamoto ya watu kuingia park na mifugo, lakini sasa hiyo tunahakikisha ya governor kwamba itaenda kusimama. Sababu gari itakuwa ikizunguka all through around the park.
Locals noted that the park had been of benefit to them as they had been able to educate their children.
Somesha watoto. Hiyo revenue sharing nasomea watoto. Hata si pesa ya shanga kama mama nausa. Hata kama mzee anapata ile na umeusa hata ile mkia ya wasee. Hata pimbo. Atapata pesa. Naenda kusoma watoto.
Wasungu anakuja, napatia sisi mapesa, tunaimbia, tunapatia mashanga, ananunua, anaingia nyumba, napatia sisi pesa, anaenda tu, lakini tunapatia pesa. Tunaenda kununua chakula ya watoto alishiba.
Samburu Governor Lati Lelelit called on stakeholders in the county to join hands to enable the park to revive its glory as it is used to be.
Na tunashukuru Save the Elephants kwa sababu gari mbili itasaidia watu yetu rangers kupatrol hii park, kuangalia maneno ya wanyama. Na tunaomba partners wengine wote watusaidie kwa sababu ya kufua hii park, kwa sababu hii park ni kitu muhimu sana kwa Kenya mzima. Hii park ilikuwa number 2 na Masai Mara ikiwa parks ambayo wageni walikuwa wanakuja Kenya. 25 best places to visit globally in the whole world. So we have a jewel sitting right here in Kenya, and we want to ask all Kenyans to make a visit to Samburu National Reserve.
Revenue stands at about 54 million. This park at one point had pushed the revenues all the way to about 500 million. Our target for now, at least for this peak season, the remaining part of the year, we project at least 200 million. But our target is to go and surpass what it used to be, the 500 million and beyond. That's what we are looking at.
Thank you.
And we can be able to achieve this by ensuring all the camps and lodges are running up.
For Lunchtime News, I'm Abdulaziz Abeid.
Drivers and assistants of Mini Bakers Company downed their tools following an alleged slashing of their salaries without their cognizance. The workers are now calling on relevant authorities to come to their rescue before the situation gets worse.
With all vehicles parked outside the company's premises, the drivers and assistants demanded to be addressed by the management on reduction of their monthly payment.
Makosa sana ama imekuwa uchungu sisi kuamuka kazi kuanzia tarehe 1 unaamuka unapata umekatwa shilingi 500 kwa mshahara yako. Na mimi ni casual. Ukiamuka upate mshahara wako imekatwa ulikuwa unalipwa shilingi 1800 unalipwa shilingi 1300.
The irate workers have allegedly eluded the management and a union in failing to offer them services they are charged for.
So you have a time imefika mahali wamekata sababu kazi yetu naelewa ni ya usiku. Kazi ya kuuza mkate, masiwa, hiyo ni kazi ya usiku. So kuna ile hata kwa CP walisema 2 hours constant sababu ya kuamka.
Meanwhile, over 400 casual workers who are laid off in Kiambu have staged a protest demanding to be reinstated. The workers have accused Governor Wamatangi of subjecting them to what has been termed a psychological and financial quagmire.
So tarehe 24 mwezi wa 10 tulisimamishwa kazi. Tukaambiwa tunataka kufanywa kitu kinaitwa streamlining. Hii streamlining imekawia mpaka tukashindwa ni aje.
Na tumekuwa tunaishi katika maisha mabovu sana kwa sababu kila wakati governor anatuambia tunaitwa kazi Januari, tunaitwa kazi February mpaka wa sasa. Tumekuja hapa tukarudisha mpaka makaratasi yetu, the engagement letter na ile makaratasi yote ambayo tumefanya nayo miaka 5.
The workers are now calling on the government to intervene in the situation. Finally, hundreds of Garissa County employees who were sacked held peaceful demonstrations and putting pressure on the executive in a bid to be reinstated. The employees who marched through the streets of Garissa town to Garissa County Assembly threatened to paralyze business in the county if their demands are not met.
After went back to court, the governor himself denied deliberately to restate those people with his colleagues, claiming that these people are only one family. I don't know which measure did he use to know this is only one clan.
Arnold Feather for Lunchtime News.
Now, students from Masinde Muliro University have decried increased insecurity cases within the university environment, asking relevant authorities to beef up security in Kakamega County. This follows recent attacks which left 2 students nursing serious injuries. Speaking at the Masinde Muliro University, the student leadership said increased insecurity cases have threatened learning, with students now being forced to forfeit morning and evening classes.
We beg the county government to see to it that students live in peace and harmony, and that they can go through their daily activities, they can go through their studies in peace and in an environment where they are not being maimed, they are not being attacked. Because here in Masinde Muliro, past saa moja usiku, chances of you being maimed and being attacked are 6 out of 10. Students are being attacked even inside their homes.
Ni gugumu sana sisi kama wanafunzi kuendelea na masomo yetu wakati kuna hivi visa vya insecurity, attacks mingi, ina distract sana masomo yetu, hatuwezi endelea kusoma vile inafaa.
In other news, the Kenya Scouts Association now says it is ready to host the first ever Africa Rover Moot from the 15th to 25th this month. The event is expected to host more than 1,000 scouts drawn from over 30 countries across the globe. The association's chief commissioner, David Radido, says that the event will see the scouts taken through training, which will focus on innovations, adventure, internal exposure and environment. The 10-day forum will see the rovers equipped with skills that will be impactful in taming the climatic changes, as well as presenting an opportunity for exploration and local tourism.
Within the 10-day period, we have made elaborate plans to give our young people both the on-site activities that will be taking place in the camp and off-site activities that will enable them to explore this country and be able to know and see the flora and fauna, and also be able to appreciate what Kenya is and what Kenya stands for in terms of tourism.
To expose them to such a beautiful and dynamic program that responds to current issues and current trends.
Yes. Where the
Kilifi County is set to have several mobile courts as part of this year's resolutions to serve as an enhancement to aid in judicial processes.
Speaking in a Malindi hotel, Malindi resident Judge Stephen Githinji said that there was a need to have mobile courts, especially in rural areas, for easy access to justice.
Judiciary under the Constitution is still committed in terms of access to justice, and in that regard we are working closely with the county government. The governor was here, deputy governor was with us today, as well as the county attorney. There are intentions to establish mobile court in Bamba, which is said to be very fast, and the distance from Kilifi Road Courts to Bamba is quite a distance.
Kilifi Deputy Governor Flora Chibuli said challenges like transportation of victims for their hearing of their cases has been a hindrance to getting justice for cases like defilement and other sexual and gender-based.
Ambayo yamejichipuza yenyewe ni zile mimba za mapema na vile hawa perpetrators wataweza kuwa dealt with, lakini tumeona sheria imeweza kuwa favor zaidi kwa sababu wengi wa wale perpetrators ni incest. Kwa hivyo ni jamii ya wale wasichana waathiriwa. Kwa hivyo ninaamini ya kwamba tukiendelea ku uphold mambo ya koti tutaweza kushughulikia jambo hili. Huo usafiri pia. Na katika hali hiyo watu mashinani na watu ambao wako mjini watakuwa more disciplined. Wakijua tumeleta koti karibu na watu, I think pia mienendo ya wanakilifi itakuwa chonjo zaidi.
The Deputy Governor further said that the county will allocate funds in the next financial year for the same program. Reporting for Lunchtime News, I'm Sabrina Liali.
Animal rights crusaders in Moyale, Marsabit County are raising the alarm over abuse of donkeys in the area. The Moyale Donkey Welfare Group says there have been reports the beasts of burden are being dragged so that they can work longer and harder. According to the group's leadership, plans are underway to draft a bill that will be tabled in the Marsabit County Assembly, which, if enacted, will shield donkey against abuse and mistreatment.
Tuwaone baada ya kudraft hii bill tupeleke County Assembly ya Marsabit, County Assembly ibitishe, alafu wale culprit wanafanya punda dhulma kwa punda, ili sisi group tuwe na nguvu ya kuwashika. Hii bili ikipita, polisi naye watakuwa na sisi. Saa hii tunaongea tunaona, lakini hakuna nguvu.
Hiyo tukue justice law iko kotini. Hiyo ngapeleka hiyo mtu kama unapatia chakula kama hiyo si mzuri. Kwa sababu punda ni binadamu. Tena hajui lugha, maji yake na kunywa, kuni yake na uza, alafu baadaye unafanyia overtime, hata sio mzuri.
Destiny Child Help Center Children's Home has a reason to smile this Easter following a food donation courtesy of a well-wisher, Mwingi-born renowned televangelist Apostle Francis Musili. While making the donation, urged other Kenyans to share with the less privileged in the society during this Easter celebrations. Grateful for the donation, the founder of the Destiny Child Help Center, Alice Mongangi, says the gesture of love from the renowned televangelist will go a long way in helping the 85 children currently hosted at the children's home.
We want to urge other people of goodwill. Jesus said, if you have two shirts, kama uko na shati mbili, upe yule ambaye hana. Usiweke mbili na kuna mwingine anapigwa na baridi. Kwa hivyo it's on that na kusherehekea, kwa sababu Easter is about sacrifice. When God sacrificed his only begotten son.
Hatukuwa na chakula kabisa, tulikuwa tumebaki na bal moja na ndio tunaitumia itaisha hii wiki, lakini saa hii tuko na chakula ya wenyewe itatusukuma miezi 3.
The Busia County Labour and Appointments Committee has completed the vetting of 5 nominees who are expected to chair the recruitment of the chairperson of the Busia County Public Service Board. The new chair will replace the incumbent Asunta Obore, who is set to leave the office at the end of May this year upon the expiry of his tenure. The 5 candidates, Maurice Onyango, Ishmael Orodi, Pamphil Masekeje, Dennis Odongo and Noel Namenya will battle for the coveted position as they were nominated owing to their vast experience in the civil service.
Ningelisi sana ya kwamba wanapoenda kuchagua waangalie watu ama mtu ambaye ako na tajriba ya juu.
Disaster management centers, you need to benchmark.
Lunchtime news. Don't go too far. We still have more news coming up.
Kupata sikiza tune hii ya missed call, bonyeza *811 *961 hash.
Juzi mimi ninakuja, ninatoka nje, ninawacha simu hapo, nikirudi kutoka raundi napata 4 missed call ya kutoka kwa bibi. Nikimuuliza ulikuwa unapiga unasema nini? Ananiambia eti alikuwa ananipigia, aniambie nimesahau simu. Kumbe bibi ananipenda na mimi.
Ili kupata skiza tune hiyo ya missed call, kama skiza tune yako, bonyeza star 811 star 961 hash. Star 811 star 961 hash.
Walipata safe house ya Sam. Niluka imechomeka. Is he dead?
Betu mwona hiyo? Kuna kitu hapo. Mwona hiyo baki jamaa yake ni bahati bana.
Imani hajakuwa kenda shule for 3 days sasa.
Nilipata ile lori ya juzi.
Tutatumia fake and break. 2 teams, stealth incursion, in and out in under 20 minutes.
Ukijaribu hii. Nyumbani.
Go, go, go! Alikutambi mali.
Leipzig, the cup holders against Dortmund.
And that's a magnificent strike.
In the Bundesliga, it was Dortmund 2, Leipzig 1. The quarter-finals of the DFB Pokal.
And he's found Werner.
To Marco Reus. Leipzig, Dortmund, a repeat of the 2021 final.
Welcome back. Now let's talk business, and it is day 3 of the Connected Summit 2023, which is currently underway in Diani, and we shall be linking up with our reporter O'Brien Kimani to give us a detailed report of the development this day. O'Brien, kindly bring us to speed.
Asante sana, Jacqueline Wambiru, back there in Broadcasting House. We continue our coverage on what is happening here at the Connected Summit 2023. Today being the closing day, and of course we expected to hear more about the resolutions that have been reached in this place, as well as the way forward in driving and deepening ICT services and products in the country. Remember, the National Assembly is a critical component in the ICT industry, because apart from their oversight role, they're also in charge of the legislation agenda, and so a lot of legislations and a lot of laws in this country, they are the people who have drafted them, and remember, they dictate the direction each sector is going to take, each department is going to take, and so they are very critical in driving the agenda of ICT here in the country. Joining me on the set this afternoon is Bernard Kitu. He's a member of Parliament for Nandi Hills and also a member of the Information, Communication and Innovation of the National Assembly. He's going to help us understand, in terms of the legislative agenda, what is their role and what they are doing to drive and to develop ICT in this country. Thank you very much indeed, Mheshimiwa, for joining us here. First of all, let me understand, what is your role as the National Assembly in ensuring that the country develops ICT-wise?
Thank you very much, Brian. First of all, today or the last couple of days, we've been having a conference, the summit that brings together all the stakeholders in ICT, both from the software to the infrastructure, both vertical, horizontal, all players within the government are here in Mombasa. And part of the things that the discussions that we've been having, of course, with the support of government, as you've seen, the ministers the cabinet secretaries from almost all key sectors in government have been in this place, and the National Assembly members have been here, those in communication, innovation and information, to showcase and support most of the discussions that have been going down here, because at the end of the day, the ratification that will be agreed, we must be able to put them into law or create regulations or policies. And lastly is, we support the fact that the president has put his eyes on matters technology, because this is our new gold as a country, or as we say, the new oil. This is an area that is going to shove in a lot of revenues for our nation and give jobs to many Kenyans, many young Kenyans, and also Kenyans are very brilliant. Now we are at such a time that the country is going towards the ICT direction, and us as Parliament, we are here to make sure that we will support a couple of ratifications that will be passed on today here.
Of course, you have been in office as Parliament for less than 7 months now, but of course there was no time to take in a LAR. You had to hit the ground running. What are some of the legislative agendas that you have planned to ensure that the sector is well regulated and the ground is well set for growth?
Let me begin. About a week ago, or a few days ago, the President of the Republic of Kenya made a raft of policies, some of which to make sure Kenya becomes a destination for international ICT firms and even the local budding innovators and ICT young people who want to have an opportunity in this country, is on the aspect of ownership of companies. That then now we are opening up Kenya, that anybody who wants to invest in this country, we reduce the red tapes. But when you come to a few of the regulations that we've been able to pass or support, part of which is right now in Parliament is the Cybercrime and Computer Misuse Act of 2019, which is now going through a number of repeals, so that we want to make it a bit more friendly, as much as we are guarding the users and the Kenyans from access to the data. Those are some of the things that we're passing on. The second one is the Data Protection Act, which now again we are doing a lot of amendments towards the same, so that we want to have a way, Brian, that most of the international tech companies, you do not need to export our data way out there. We want to store our local data within the country, so that you can only utilize it from within. So those are the safeguards that we want to bring on. As well as we continue the same discussions, it's also to look at it from the aspect of taxation. When these taxes are done, we want the due revenue that is generated within the country. At least the taxation of such remains in Kenya. So such things are a bit complex, but we are having now stakeholder discussions that you see now going down here, and this is going to make sure that we are able to safeguard ourselves as we advance at a very fast rate towards adopting technology.
You highlighted what the president did last week when he met members of the American Chamber of Commerce, and one of there are two policy issues that he pronounced himself on that he wants to be relooked into. One of them is the digital service tax at 1.5%, and of course the other one is the 30% local ownership law for ICT companies. Have you started conversations on how this can be amended?
Since now it came from as a policy of government, now it will be for us now to come and have a discussion as the Committee on Information Innovation and in Parliament, so that then when we look at the greater picture of the same, I know even as we go forward, we'll have a bit of public participation, and then we'll be able to now pass this draft of serious policies that is going to help our country. And I want to add this, Brian, that even as we do all this, our consideration is the young people in our country. We have most of the TVETs in our nation, even as the government now is rolling the 100,000-kilometer fiber network, and even as we're having computers being delivered to most of the local technical institutions within the country, we want now through that also in part of legislating some of this, creating this legislation and supporting the international giant tech firms, we want to see how then also the locals are able to benefit, especially the young people. And I can tell you, we are now on the superhighway of changing this country, particularly the young people. I want to encourage anybody who has a desire to be in technology, your time has come.
Very well. Before I let you go, Mheshimiwa, by the time the current Parliament elapses back in the in 2027, I want you to describe for us how the ICT landscape will look like.
It will be, first of all, Kenya is going to be one of the biggest exporters of technological services in the region. I can guarantee you, Brian, that we are going to beat Rwanda, which apparently now, because of the way the president of Rwanda had put his focus onto the aspect and area of technology, the current president of the Republic of Kenya has mapped it very well and seen that this is an area that we can be able to benefit. I want to encourage every Kenyan, every young Kenyan, every citizen of this nation, let us embrace technology. In 2027, everybody in the world will be looking for Kenya as a destination for getting the best services in ICT.
Very good. Thank you very much indeed. And of course, I will be watching and keenly to see and ensure that that is done, because the desire of every one of us is exactly what you have outlined here. Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa, for joining us here. And of course, we wish you well in your legislative and oversight agenda going forward. Thank you very much. We've been talking to Bernard Kituru. He's a member of Parliament for Nandi Hills and also a member of the ICT Committee of the National Assembly, helping us to understand what is the role of the committee in driving the growth of ICT here in Kenya. And of course, you have heard it from him. We're coming to you live from Diani, where the Connected Kenya Connected Summit 2023 is taking place. Remember, today is a closing day, and of course, we are keeping an eye to see exactly what will come out of this great committee. Back to you, Jacqueline Wambiru.
Well, indeed, we shall be keeping you updated on the resolutions that will be adopted at the Connected Summit 2023 later on in our subsequent bulletins. For now, we move on. A section of independent power producers now want the government to review taxation of their inputs to allow them to sell electricity to Kenya Power at a cheaper price. Appearing before the Senate Committee on Energy, Rabai Power attributed the high cost of electricity to high cost of fuel and exorbitant taxation on inputs.
The Senate Committee on Energy invited the management of Rabai Power Plant, one of the key independent power producers in the country, to engage in modalities the government ought to adopt to lower the cost of electricity.
You enter into unconscionable contracts against the interest of the citizens with the sole intention of profiteering. What reduction do you intend to make consumers in Kenya access power? The component that is taking the bulk of the unit cost of kilowatt hour that Rabai deals KBC is the fuel component. And the fuel component, as you know, and as I explained earlier, is beyond the control of the generator.
Senators concerned about the impact of emissions of generators on environment want the power plants to embrace gas instead of fuel. But the independent power producer argued that rebuilding the engines to use gas was a challenge. Instead, the legislature is being urged to review regulations that were prohibiting the exploitation of renewable energy by the IPPs.
What mitigation measures are you taking so that you reduce your carbon footprint in terms of pollution?
There are regulations as it is for now that are regulating all that a company needs to put in place to at least to remain friendly or to have an environment that is friendlier.
Given there is no exit clause in the power producing agreement between IPPs and the government, the two parties are now in negotiation on how to lower the cost of electricity.
We feel like it is a bit exploitative. However, we are happy that you mentioned you would consider giving us discounts. Of course, the disclaimer is that on the extension of the capacity or the contract. I think we must, as Kenyans, start having discussion along these lines, whether it is not possible for us to get a discount from you.
The independent power producers indicate there are ongoing negotiations with the government aimed at reducing the cost of electricity. But until they find a favorable agreement, Kenyans will continue digging deeper in their pockets to afford electricity. Vishu Kiwashira, reporting from Parliament.
Business conditions in the country contracted albeit slower in the month of March, fueled by rising prices, a weakening shilling and a lack of access to dollars. This is according to the latest data from Stanbic, a purchasing managers index that indicated the increase in costs saw inflationary pressures maintain a 5-month high, worsening the already fragile economic environment.
Stanbic Bank Kenya Purchasing Managers Index rose to 49.2 in March from 46.6 a month earlier, but remained below the 50 mark, denoting growth in business activity. The PMI, which measures the performance of key sectors of the economy, shows new orders fell due to the softer decline in business conditions between February and March. The survey said 30% of respondents cited difficulty in getting hold of dollars, as well as increased taxes and higher fuel prices that led to a rise in purchasing prices. Despite the decline, export-oriented businesses also reported improved activity as they recorded some expansions, with the survey noting that some consumers saw a recovery in customer orders, particularly from abroad. With the Central Bank of Kenya having committed to reviving the interbank of foreign exchange earlier last week, the move is set to help alleviate the shortage of dollars, improving business conditions. Ndutamo Kami for Lunchtime News.
A section of local manufacturers drawn from Nakuru County are in support of the proposed export and investment promotion levy. They argue the move will stand unfair competition on local goods from imports and instead spur growth of the micro, small and medium-sized enterprises.
The local manufacturing sector continues to be a key contributor to the country's economy, accounting for about 7% of the country's GDP and providing employment opportunities for over 200,000 people.
So if the export levy comes to, if the money collected can be able to help SMEs establish warehouses in these markets where they can be able to store their goods, or even the government can organize more expo and finance SMEs to go and promote their products, that will help.
The proposed export and investment promotion levy on certain import goods and products which the local manufacturing industries have the capacity to manufacture is expected to unlock an export potential of 450 billion shillings, which when fully exploited is expected to create an additional 400,000 direct and indirect jobs and enhance the country's forex reserve and generate additional revenue to the exchequer.
And all these are geared towards increasing jobs or creating jobs for our youth, increasing products that we can export to other countries, and of course attracting both domestic and foreign direct investments.
That way the incentive will be on the Kenyan to go to the industrial park and exploit that latent resource that is inside there. If we continue promoting investment parks without the levy funding the small industries, then we shall never industrialize. We are putting our resources in the wrong place. So our suggestion is that the levy accrued should fund the African Kenyan to start a factory.
The move seeks to support export development to grow export from the current annual growth of 6% to more than 25% aggregated by the National Trade Policy. This proposal is seemingly finding favor among local manufacturers from Nakuru County.
If we would know that that levy would get to a fund that will be coming to us to improve our businesses, the better. And more so when it comes to refinement of our products to be globally accepted and, compete in the global market.
They argue that free-for-all importation of commodities such as building materials, stationery, agricultural produce, pharmaceuticals and packaged foodstuffs, among others, are disenfranchising farmers and hampering the growth of MSMEs. Regina Manyar reporting for Lunchtime News.
European banks are increasingly turning to bespoke deals with investors such as hedge funds to offload some of the risk on multi-billion euro loan portfolios and improve their financial strength. Banks supervised by the European Central Bank, the biggest ones in the Eurozone, completed a record 174 billion euros of such deals last year. Here are the details of these and other stories happening around the globe.
By offloading some of the risks on their loans, the banks can significantly reduce how much capital they need to set aside to cover potential losses. While Europe has been at the forefront of risk transfers, the stocks of loans covered by SRTs is small relative to European banks' balance sheets. The ECB says on its website that banks wishing to strike such deals must request regulatory approval at least 3 months before the expected closing dates. Elsewhere, oil prices rose today, boosted by the expectations of U.S. crude inventory declines, as well as the latest output cut targets set by the OPEC Plus Producer Alliance. Brent crude futures gained 45 cents to $85.39 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate U.S. crude was up 40 cents to $81.11 a barrel. The rises came as an industry report showed U.S. crude stocks fell about 4.3 million barrels in the week that ended the 31st of March. The official inventory report by the U.S. Energy Information Administration is due to 14:30 GMT on Wednesday. And finally, Dogecoin's Shiba Inu dog replaced Twitter's Bluebird as the social media company logo on Monday, helping the meme coin add as much as $4 billion to its market value. The token, born as a satire of cryptocurrency frenzy in 2013 and had no fundamental use on Tuesday, surged to 10 cents around 1500 EST from 7 cents as Elon Musk indicated in a tweet that he had delivered on his promise of changing the social media app's logo to Dogecoin's dog.
Over to Diani, where the Connected Summit 2023 will come to an end today, and currently speaking is Information Communication and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo speaking. Let's listen in.
And gentlemen, now to the last moments of what has been, in my view, a very fruitful assembly of minds. We met at the start of this week as thought leaders within the ICT industry and process drivers in the digital industry to review the state of the art, take note of how we have performed, analyze the gaps we have witnessed, the lessons we have learned, and what we need to do best moving forward. We have assessed our status amidst the unfolding realities. We have seen the hopes, the opportunities that are available for us, and at the same time also recognized the challenges or the impediments that we need to address moving forward. These have aptly been captured in the recommendations that were read by Fiona, the CEO of Textbook. And those recommendations capture the collective thoughts of the team that has participated in this summit, ladies and gentlemen. So I wish to thank everyone for your different roles and contribution towards the success of this momentous event. A big vote of thanks to the organizers led by ICTA, the sponsors, the partners, the exhibitors, and of course the media for playing an integral augmenting role towards making sure that this process is a success. And of course, all the delegates who have participated in this forum, either physically or virtually. Above all, let me also thank the Almighty God for watching over us and walking us through all the stages of the planning, the organization, and for bringing us to this point where in the next couple of hours or so, we will now be parting and hope to meet again soon in another forum in relation to our dear ICT industry. Over the past 3 days, ladies and gentlemen, we have traversed and explored the digital landscape. We have had very insightful and informative encounters. We have looked into the future of work and life with fresh eyes from a digital perspective. We have seen unlimited possibilities, as the theme of this summit aptly captures. What we are agreed on, ladies and gentlemen, is that the digital economy can do for us amazing things, and not just in the formal working places, but even for those of us who are in the creative and the gig economies. In blockchains, robotics, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and in other emerging spaces and systems, the promise is immense. And we have therefore reaffirmed the potential of ICT in creation of jobs and generation of wealth. That, ladies and gentlemen, has been placed at our disposal, and what therefore remains with us is the challenge of facilitating optimal uptake of the opportunities that lie therein. ICT is redefining the whole notion of employment and unemployment at the same time. To be jobless is increasingly coming to mean that you have no access to digital platforms, or skills, or even both. For the new job markets, no matter what your field may be, we are now in the cyberspace. And that is the place that all of us need to migrate to. If you don't, then you are actually living on borrowed time. As the Kenya Kwanza government, we will continue to provide the requisite infrastructure and create an enabling and facilitative environment for the private sector to thrive, specifically the ICT sector to thrive. And we shall intentionally seek to make our country an empowered digital society in line with our vision, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, informed by our mandate as a ministry, which is the very reason for our very existence. And we will work with all of you, as I mentioned on the first day, locally or internationally, to make this happen. Towards this end, allow me to say a big thank you to the private sector and to the foreign delegates and exhibitors who joined us at this summit this year. May I take this early opportunity to invite you to come again next year and moving forward to help us in planning the African Connected and perhaps the Global Connected Summit here in Kenya. But meanwhile, don't disappear. We are going to remain active between now and the next summit, pursuing the lessons that we have learned at the end of this summit. And as trusted partners, we count upon you to walk the talk with us. Once again, regardless that you physically came to be with us or not, you can be part of that process through distant participation online. May I also thank those from the legislative arm of government who participated in this summit, because your input into some of the propositions emanating from this summit is imperative, and we look forward to working with you to ensure that we create an enabling legal and regulatory framework to enable the ICT industry thrive. To the judiciary and other state organs who participated in this forum, we say thank you, and we are happy that we have quite a bit also to learn from the digitization and digitalization work that has gone on within your operations, and that will of course inform, or we will benchmark with what your experiences are to make our performance as government better. We have had the proposals of the summit as have been read. What we now need to do, or what remains for us, ladies and gentlemen, is to reflect on them. I want to assure you that what is deemed feasible, instantly we will go ahead and embark on the process of implementation. What needs further interrogation or consultations within relevant levels of government, we will embark equally on that process immediately so that we facilitate successful implementation of those propositions as required. We came here to harvest new ideas, ladies and gentlemen, and rest assured that those recommendations emanating from this forum will be implemented. And I hope, of course, you remain ready and available to help us walk the journey of implementation as well. Otherwise, once again, I say thank you very much to everybody. I wish you journey mercies as you go back to your bases. Travel safely, whether by road or by rail, or on the water or by the air. And may God abide with you all the way. Have a happy Easter holiday, and to all of you, we owe you a great debt of gratitude. May God bless you. Thank you very much.
Well, that was...
So may I now formally declare this summit officially closed on behalf of His Excellency the President. Thank you.
Well, that was Information, Communication and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Awalo stating that the government will put in place measures to ensure the country has an empowered digital society, as well as highlighting the potential of ICT in the country. And now we shall continue to other stories where Kenya is seeking to start mango exports to Ghana after a delegation from the West African nation visited mango farms in Kenya. The president of the Federation of the Association of Ghanaian Exporters, Davis Kobor, says they're seeking mangoes from Kenya to cover their off-season.
Mango products might be Kenya's second export commodity to Ghana after tea under the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Exporters from Ghana are in the country on a fact-finding mission on Kenya's ability to supply Ghana's market before signing bilateral agreements. Ghanaian Exporters Federation says it's seeking the Kenyan fruit to supplement mango export to the EU during Ghana's off-season.
So we think that we could do business where we could trade among ourselves, where you don't have mangoes, we can easily penetrate.
Under the European Union-funded Market Access Program, farmers will be trained on phytosanitary requirements to access the Ghanaian market.
The national market requires some basic standards to be complied with before you are given a market there. One of them is Global Gap Standard.
If the trade deal actualizes, Kenyan farmers will export both processed and fresh mangoes to Ghana.
And that's why I'm saying that dynamics are clean dynamics, and there's a way that we cash into it, the two of us, and make our nations great.
Ghana will be the fourth export destination for Kenyan mangoes after the European Union, United Arab Emirates, and the East African Community. Benson Rioba reporting for Lunchtime News.
17,000 graduates are set to receive training by the Konza Technopolis Development Authority as part of the technology and innovation workforce for the smart city. Ministry of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy Principal Secretary Engineer John Tanui says the 3-year program will focus customizing global technology to fit the local context. Here are the details of these and more in our corporate briefs.
With the current rates of digital transformation, it is approximated that 55% of jobs in Kenya will rely on digital skills by 2030. Due to this, IT training and digital literacy programs have been encouraged by the government through collaboration of institutions of higher learning. Ministry of Information, Communication and Digital Economy PS Engineer John Tanui says to overcome device, skill and opportunity barriers currently existing, it is essential to tailor-make training for specific industrial needs in the country.
Sure that our people are able to get quality training and are able to access the global opportunities.
Of course, we've been working with the TVET institution, but now we want to scale it up to all over the country so that we are able to impact all the youth of this country.
Meanwhile, the Kenya Tea Development Agency Foundation has embarked on community skill addition and learning around tea farms to curb underage workers joining the industry's labor force. Head of KTDA Foundation, Sudi Matara, says providing children in the tea-producing community with quality education is essential in the overall growth of the sector.
Transforming our communities is at the heart of what we do. Our farmer-centric approaches towards making sure that we have a holistic approach to the way we do things.
Finally, stakeholders in the real estate industry have formed an association that will promote transparency and accountability in the sector. Olive Limited Chief Executive Officer Peter Gitau says the association will ensure ethical business practices are upheld in the country following numerous concerns by the public over increased fraud and land conning.
Members of the real estate know each other. They know who defrauds who defrauds who. And ultimately, the only thing that we can do is bringing the stakeholders together. We set up the rules of the game or of the industry.
Hibak Said for Lunchtime News.
The baobab tree issue is gaining national attention as the committees of the environment from the National Assembly and the Kilifi County Assembly held a joint conference to find a truce. Dr. Chimuku Wekesa from Kenya Forest Research Institute challenged the government to inject more resources so that endangered species of trees can be researched and protected.
It's months now since the government banned the uprooting and exportation of baobab trees in Kilifi County to foreign countries, a trend that was reversing gains made in protecting the environment. However, when the MPs visited Tezo village, residents told them that they sold the trees out of ignorance.
Sasa tukafikiria huyu mchina ambaye amekuja aiondoe, ametusebu sisi. Wacha aondoe, tupandele mimea yetu mizuri ambayo inaweza kuchunga familia yetu, kusoma, kula na kuvaa na mengineyo. Tukamuuzia kwa roho safi kabla kulazimishwa.
They urged the government to sensitize the communities on the importance of trees.
Hatukuelimishwa. Watu wa forest tunao Kilifi hapa na hakuna hata siku hata moja waliokuja nyanjani na wakasema tunamuhamasisha mibuyu ina faida A, B, C, D.
So maybe you will tell us what is it that they get from this natural resource that we cannot utilize the same to help our people in income generation or in anything else.
Dr. Chimuku Wekesa from Kenya Forest Research Institute, KEFRI, challenged the government to inject more resources so that endangered species of trees can be researched and protected. Charles Kamurain, Chair Environmental Committee, said the Parliament will come up with legislation to save Kenyan heritage.
We come in and save the situation. We come up with legislation to save our properties. You won't get it anywhere.
Pauline Nasimil for Lunchtime News.
And in the sports arena, the National Olympic Games.
Team Kenya has been collecting medals mostly in athletes at the Olympic Games, and the National Olympic Committee is committed in also making a podium in team sports. NOC is looking to have team sports on the podium from the 2032 games to be held in Brisbane, Australia. And that road begins with sending more team sports comprising of youngsters to the Paris 2024 Olympics. NOC believes that Kenya stands a better chance in beach games and will be competing in 4 events this year as they prepare for Paris 2024.
The contingency plan, and this is overall within Africa, is to be able to have as many confederations as possible to run their own individual qualification events. In Kenya, we're hoping that we can be able to run one, at least the canoe slalom, one because we can be able to do it on short notice, but most of the other on short notice, but most of the other confederations, our appeal, our request, and hopefully this will be activated, is to have very many confederation qualification events this year.
NOC hopes to send a team to the Zone 5 Youth Games to be held in July this year, with players and athletes to compete aged between 14 and 18 years old. Kenya will also compete at the Africa Youth Games in a venue yet to be confirmed. The Commonwealth Youth Games to be held in August in Trinidad and Tobago, the African Beach Games to be held in Tunisia from the 24th to 30th this year, and the World Beach Games set for Bali, Indonesia from the 5th to 12th August this year. The program for more beach games is in line with the Kenya government's agenda of investing more in the blue economy.
Lucas Hoyle scored a 95th minute penalty as Freiburg came from behind to knock Bayern Munich out of the German Cup in the quarterfinals. Meanwhile, RB Leipzig will face Borussia Dortmund tonight in the quarterfinals. The quarterfinal tie will be beamed live on KBC Channel 1.
For Leroy Sané. Sané goes on, monster tackle by Matthias